Does Nintendo listen to fans? And more importantly, are they letting their old IP die? Let's talk about it. So earlier I made this tweet quoting someone who was talking about the announcement Sega made at the Game Awards. Sega announced that they were bringing back 5 of their franchises that are pretty much dead: Jet Set Radio, Crazy Taxi, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, and Shinobi. And while I don't want to discredit what Sega is doing, I think they are doing a fantastic thing. That announcement made a lot of people kind of come out of the woodwork, start the old Sega versus Nintendo console war, and I saw a lot of posts on Twitter about how Nintendo doesn't do that, how Nintendo doesn't listen to fans, and how they don't bring back their old IP. They just let their old IP go to waste, and they don't even try to bring back their old franchises, and they just do whatever they want, basically. So I tweeted this out, and it got a lot of attention. I tweeted, what Sega is doing is fantastic, but this idea that Nintendo is wasting their dormant IP is whack. They're better about honoring their legacy and giving old IP a chance more than any other publisher by a country mile. Though I do want to, put an amendment to that. I think Square Enix actually would rival Nintendo in terms of just giving smaller franchises a chance, like Mana. We're getting big Mana games, we're getting Saga games still. That's pretty cool. But anyway, I wanted to use this tweet as kind of a jumping off point to talk about this idea that Nintendo doesn't listen to fans, and this idea that they let their old franchises go to waste, because I completely disagree. I think if you look at every big name publisher currently in the gaming industry, Nintendo, and maybe like Square Enix, like I said, I think Nintendo does it better than anyone. You look at what Sony or Xbox is doing with their old IP, and I mean, I don't necessarily want to call them out or like throw negativity their way, but Xbox and PlayStation are horrible about using their old IP. I mean, Xbox at least had that whole backwards compatibility initiative in terms of letting you play your old games, but in terms of releasing new games, be it remakes or actual new entries, both companies are very, very bad about it. PlayStation especially. I mean, all they release is Last of Us, Spider-Man, God of War, and Horizon, right? And those games are fantastic, but we're not getting Sly Cooper, we're not getting Jak and Daxter. Frankly, it's a miracle they let Insomniac make a Ratchet and Clank game. I feel like part of this might just be because people are still jaded from the Wii U and 3DS era, and at that point, I think it was fair criticism, specifically when it comes to Metroid, but really a lot of their franchises in that 2010 to 2016 era for Nintendo. It seemed like all we got were Zelda, Mario, and Donkey Kong, and a couple other key players like Fire Emblem, right? We weren't getting any of the weird stuff. But since then, Nintendo has completely changed, and they've been bringing back so many old franchises that they frankly have no reason to bring back. Nintendo doesn't release Famicom Detective Club because they think, oh wow, this is gonna make us money. Of course it will make them money. They bring it back to fill out their portfolio, give Nintendo Switch owners a diverse game catalog, and yeah, of course they're gonna try to make money from it, but they're doing it to bring it back because they know that their legacy and they know that their IP is so important to so many people. And I know people don't want to hear about Mario here, but in terms of the idea that Nintendo doesn't listen to fans, which I hear a lot of, Thousand Year Door and Mario RPG getting remade is more proof than you could ever really need to know that that is not true. Those games simply would not have happened if it wasn't for fan outcry online. Thousand Year Door, I mean, I gotta give props to Arlo. Thousand Year Door is being remade because of Arlo. That is real. That is a real thing that happened. There was a big Paper Mario community movement that let Nintendo know that people want Thousand Year Door, which led to Thousand Year Door getting remade. And I would not be shocked if a big portion of the reason they knew to even go back to Mario RPG was because of the Geno and Smash community. That is a big thing that Sakurai knows about. So yes, they probably looked at that outcry for Geno and Smash and thought, maybe we should remake Super Mario RPG. So yes, Nintendo clearly listens to their fans. But even in terms of those smaller franchises that frankly are not going to make Nintendo the big bucks, they still release them, they still revisit them to like I said, diversify their portfolio of games and experiences for their audience. I look at a couple of games here, just off the top of my head from the Switch. Famicom Detective Club, that game had no reason to come back. That is a remake of an NES visual novel that never got localized. Why did they remake that? Just because it's not the franchise that you want to come back doesn't mean Nintendo isn't, going deep in the well to pull out some old IP. Just because it isn't Kid Icarus, just because it isn't Punch-Out, doesn't mean they aren't looking at their history and honoring these old franchises with new games. Advance Wars is another great example. We just got a pretty good remake of it. It's not a new game, but it shows that they understand that fans want this to come back, and a remake is a great way to test the waters. Release a remake, if it sells well, make a new game. That is a proven strategy in this industry. In January, we're getting another Code Recollection. This is a remake of a DS and Wii game, or a series of DS and Wii games, that I think most people watching this video had probably never even heard of. Which also, just a quick aside, to the people complaining about remakes and remasters in 2024, I understand that Another Code Recollection isn't a new game. Most of you didn't play that game, and I bet most of you didn't even know it existed, so for all intents and purposes, that is a new game to most people. But anyway, F-Zero 99, yeah, it's a battle royale, and yeah, it's using the SNES like graphic styling. It's not a traditional new game like you would expect. It shows that Nintendo cares about F-Zero. F-Zero was like the meme one. Next to Mother 3, F-Zero has been long requested from fans, and then we get a new F-Zero game, and people just aren't even really talking about it. That's one of the best games of the year. And while it might not be everybody's cup of tea, I think Big Brain Academy Brain vs. Brain is just another bullet point here of Nintendo wanting to, once again, diversify their portfolio and release games in their franchises that they like. I mean, I think Nintendo genuinely likes the games they create, which is why they put so much focus on them. There's no better example of this than Metroid. Metroid is a series that has historically not sold very well, but because Nintendo likes it, because Sakamoto and Tanabe like Metroid, they keep making Metroid games. There was that period where Metroid was kind of MIA from 2010 to 2016, right? Other M came out, people didn't like it, and then Federation Force in 2016 wasn't exactly the ceremonious grand revival of Metroid that people wanted. However, very quickly, they course corrected. They announced Metroid Prime 4. They released a remake of Metroid 2, a fantastic remake of Metroid 2, might I add. And then after Mercury Steam got experience creating a remake of Metroid 2, they let them make Metroid Dread, which Metroid, I guess, in a lot of people's minds is bigger than it is. Metroid is on like the same tier as a lot of these franchises that people want to come back, like Kid Icarus. Metroid Dread was like 20 years in the making since Fusion released. I think it was, what, 19 years in between the two games? If that isn't proof that they are listening to fans and they are looking at what people want in terms of their older IP, in terms of their older franchises, I don't know what is. Yes, Metroid Dread sold very well. It is the best-selling Metroid game, but before that, the previous Metroid games didn't sell that good. But what about the franchises Nintendo hasn't revisited recently? What about Mother? Well, in the case of Mother, or Earthbound, for a lot of people that may not know it's called Mother, Mother concluded. Itoi said the series is done. Mother 3 was the ending of that game, that game franchise. He does not want to make more Mother games. Now you could argue, where's the Mother 3 remake? I would maybe agree that they should do that, but I don't think we're owed that. And if Itoi doesn't want to do more Mother, then I think it's fine to leave it as is. Not every franchise needs to have a new game every 3 to 5 years. I think that thinking is frankly a little toxic. I mean, it'd be great, sure, but that's not the reality we live in. It's not a, oh, you press a button and a game is made. Nintendo has to make critical business decisions of like, okay, instead of Next Level making another Punch-Out game, they're gonna make Luigi's Mansion 3. And hey, I'll give you this, I think Punch-Out actually is a fair one. Punch-Out got revived on the Wii back in 2009, and we haven't gotten a new Punch-Out since. Punch-Out very well may be one of the few actual examples of Nintendo letting one of their more prominent series kind of go to waste in recent memory, so I'll give you that one, I guess. But one of the most common replies to my tweet was about Star Fox. Where have you guys been? Star Fox is far from dead. I mean, a better example would be something like Rhythm Heaven. Star Fox got a brand new AAA game in 2016. It was the headlining feature of the SNES Mini in 2016 as well, when they released Star Fox 2 for the very first time, officially. And then in 2018, we got a massive collaboration in Starlink where they added Star Fox characters to Starlink. You can get an R-Wing official figure from Ubisoft. That's really cool. While there hasn't been a traditional Star Fox game released on the Switch, to act like Star Fox is a dead franchise, I think is just, frankly, a little ignorant. 2016 might feel like a long time ago, but really, that's only 7 years. It's only been 7 years and some change since Star Fox Zero released. And while, yes, I would love a new Star Fox game on the Switch, I don't think the fact that it hasn't happened yet is proof that Star Fox is dead. I have no doubt in my mind that Star Fox will come back. I mean, Miyamoto clearly loves the franchise. It's the reason Pikmin kept coming back for so many times, right? Pikmin wasn't a success, but they made Pikmin 3 anyway, and then they made Pikmin 4. I have no doubt in my mind that Star Fox will get a new entry eventually. And the same thing applies to Kid Icarus. Once again, this one's a little bit more like actually dead, I guess, if you want to really call it that. But the reason we haven't gotten a new Kid Icarus game is because Sakurai, the person who pushed to bring Uprising to fruition, the person who pushed to revive Kid Icarus since it hadn't been alive since the 90s, was Sakurai, and he was busy with Smash. Consistently. for 10 years. Once again, they can't just push a button and magically spawn a new Kid Icarus game. That's not how game development works. But the core point I'm trying to make here is if Nintendo is willing to fund and bring back Famicom Detective Club, and Another Code, and Advance Wars, and they're putting this much stake into Metroid Prime 4, which I haven't even talked about, a game that they have restarted development on, has been in development for, what, 7 years? That is not a cheap video game. That's going to be one of the biggest budget Nintendo games, or at the very least, it's going to be one of the games that they sunk most budget into just because of how long it's been in development, because they know they can't release it in a poor state. They are not going to release that game until they know it's good, because they want to honor Metroid. They know that Metroid is a fan favorite, and they don't want to release a bad game. The fact that they put this much effort into these older IP, in my opinion, is all you really need to look at to see, okay, well, maybe they will bring back Star Fox. Maybe we will get a traditional new F-Zero game. Maybe we will get Kid Icarus and Punch-Out, right? I feel like it's a little reductive to look at what Nintendo has done on the Switch and be like, oh, it's just Mario and Zelda. Just because you don't care about Famicom Detective Club or Another Code or Big Brain Academy doesn't mean Nintendo is bad at using their older IP. It really doesn't. And while it's a whole other topic, I think games being added to Switch Online would also kind of apply to them actually listening at least a little bit, or at least acknowledging these older franchises. Golden Sun was featured in a Nintendo Direct in 2023. Golden Sun is one of my favorite Nintendo franchises, so to see it popping up on Switch Online, it's not out yet, but they announced it, is exciting, because that to me means that Nintendo knows Golden Sun's important, and frankly, if Advance Wars can get a remake, I don't see why Golden Sun can't. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to get a conversation going. I'm not that active on Twitter, but this tweet got like a lot of attention, so I figured I would make a video kind of clarifying some thoughts here. People might enjoy it. And of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch discussion topics like this pretty much each and every day. Until then, folks, thank you so much for watching. Of course, follow me on Twitter as well at BoTalksGames. And until next time, folks, peace!